peaceful transfer of presidential power is what sets our democratic experiment that has persisted for 250 years apart from those countries whose democratic experiments have failed. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is a self-defense for our Constitution, based on the idea, learned through painful experience, that those who break their sworn oath to the Constitution by engaging in insurrection against it cannot be trusted with public office again. President Donald Trump engaged in insurrection by inciting a violent mob to attack our Capitol and disenfranchise over 80 million people who voted against him. In doing so, President Trump disqualified himself from holding office. That's not something we are doing to him. That's not something any court is doing to him. That is something he did to himself under our Constitution. Today is a day that tests our nation's commitment to the rule of law and to whether our Constitution applies equally to everybody, regardless of their popularity. The law is clear that President Trump can hold no office again unless 2/3 of Congress grant him amnesty. We are confident that the U.S. Supreme Court will apply Section 3 as written and uphold the decision of the Colorado Supreme Court standing for the principle that no person is above the law. I'd like to introduce as well our lead petitioner, Norma Anderson, a longtime Colorado Republican who had the courage to bring this case.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was the first experience for me to sit in front of the Supremes, but I'm going to trust them to do the right thing. As you just heard. Sorry about that. I guess I better stand closer to the mic. Is that better?
Louder.
Almost. Sorry, I've got a loud voice. I used to call kids at over 100 acres. So this is as loud as it gets. But anyhow, where I was, our founders drew up a constitution that was still in effect, but we had a little insurrection back in the late 1860s. And guess what? They wrote Amendment 14 with Section 3 in it. Insurrection, you cannot serve if you committed insurrection. What is trying to throw out an election? I call it insurrection, as well as raiding the U.S. Capitol. That is insurrection. The last time it was raided was by the British in 1812. Well, 1814, that was the war. So this is very personal to me. I've lived a hell of a long time, and I've gone through a lot of presidents, and this is the first one that is trying to destroy the Constitution. And I thank you for being here.
Hold on, we'll do questions at the end. We'll do questions at the end, okay? Go ahead, Krista.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Krista Kafer, and I voted for Donald Trump in 2020. I am a registered Republican. And I watched with horror on January 6th as someone who took an oath to the Constitution worked to subvert that oath, had for 2 months pushed a false and dangerous narrative that fomented violence, that inflamed a crowd, that attacked the building that is near us. I was once a congressional staffer. I know what it's like to be in that building. I cannot imagine that somebody who had taken an oath of office would go back on that oath, foment violence against the very people that he had worked with. As a Republican, I believe in rule of law. I believe in our Constitution. I believe in its very plain words that said, you cannot take an oath of office and then subvert that oath and foment violence, foment insurrection. I am so proud of all of us who are here today. I'm so proud to stand with Norma Anderson, who actually represented my district when I was young back in Colorado. She is a great leader. We have so many great people on this case who have come forward to say, this is the line. This is the line. You cannot foment insurrection. You cannot foment violence. You cannot do these things. They knew about this back in the 1860s, and that's why they put this into place. Today, we are proud to stand by the Constitution, by the rule of law, to say, never again. And I hope that this court, I know that they take it very seriously. We watched as they asked very hard questions, that they take their role very seriously in upholding the Constitution. And I can speak for all of us that we are so proud to be here today on behalf of the American people, on behalf of our democracy, and on behalf of our Constitution. Thank you.
One more speaker, and then we'll do a few questions.
Hi, I'm Noah Bookbinder, president of Crew. And I think for a long time, people have looked at this case and said, you know, this is a long shot at best. But what we saw today was a Supreme Court taking this extremely seriously, digging into the issues, asking tough questions of everyone, getting extraordinary answers from Jason Murray. And that shouldn't come as a surprise, because what we've seen over recent weeks is amicus briefs from historians, from legal experts, from former officials across the political spectrum, particularly Republicans, making very clear that the disqualification clause of the 14th Amendment has to apply to the president, always applied to the president, that it has to be self-enforcing, that, and perhaps most importantly, that it is the right thing for democracy. It is the tool we have to protect our democracy. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for these incredibly brave Republican and unaffiliated voters who brought this suit. You heard from Norma Anderson and Krista Kafer. We're also joined today by Claudine Schneider and Chris Castilian. And it's their courage to stand up for the Constitution and for the Republic that brought us here, as well as the incredible bipartisan legal team represented today so ably by Jason Murray that got us to this point. Now it's up to the Supreme Court, and we have every faith that they are going to be fair, that they're going to be thorough, they're going to make the decision that the Constitution and the law demands.
We'll take a few questions. Just introduce yourself and what outlet you're with before you ask.
Ms. Anderson?
Go ahead.
Gabe Fleischer, Wake Up to Politics. I'm curious if you could speak to how concerned you are by the precedent that could be set here today if states are able to remove, individual states are able to remove candidates from the ballot. Does that worry you for the consequences for elections?
No, it doesn't worry me, and I'll tell you why. I'm a strong believer of state rights, and so were the founders. Very simple.
Norma, Marshall Zellinger, 9 News.
Yes, Marshall.
It seemed that the justices had a lot of concern about, well, if Colorado or one state gets to do something, what's that going to mean for the other states? You say states' rights. They seem concerned about that.
Well, if I petition on, and if I remember right, there's been a third party petition on several states and didn't make it in every state because of the state laws. What's the difference?
Are you optimistic to win the case?
Of course, I'm
Yes.
always optimistic.
But it doesn't look like, actually, when you listen to the questions, actually, I got the impression that it will be difficult for you.
I have chaired committees. And of course, it's not sitting in with the Supremes, but you ask a lot of questions so that you learn.
Norma,
Jason,
can I follow up on that briefly?
We'll do it
Just
in
a
1
moment.
second,
I want to
okay?
follow up on
Thank
this
you.
question. Getting hard questions has been the story of this case. We got an awful lot of hard questions in the Colorado trial court from a judge who ultimately found that President Trump did indeed engage in insurrection. We got an awful lot of hard questions from the Colorado Supreme Court, which ultimately determined that we were right, that President Trump could be excluded from the ballot. You don't do hard things without asking hard questions. And even though we are right on the law, we understand that what we are asking the court to recognize is something extraordinary, which is that for the first time in our nation's history, a major candidate for president of the United States is ineligible for that office under the Constitution. So we fully expected we were going to get difficult questions, but we're confident that when the court looks at the law and digs into the issues, it will realize that we're right and apply the law as it's written.
What makes you feel so?
Hold on, guys. One at a time. What outlet are you with? Sorry.
Proud of you.
Here.
What if they don't?
Well, if they don't, then we, as the rest of the country should do, will abide by the result. But we're confident that they will recognize that we're right on the law.
Let's go right here.
Jake Rosen with CBS News. I'm just wondering, the makeup of the Colorado Supreme Court is different than the court behind you. I'm just wondering how you game that out and what your expectations are and them making a decision and the timeline on that.
Well, our expectation is that any judge, regardless of who appointed them, will do their best to apply the law as it's written and not try to achieve any political outcome. And here the law is clear in our favor.
Can I ask Norma Anderson?
Yes.
Go ahead right here.
It's Mark Stone from Sky News. I wonder if I could ask you what your message is to the millions of Trump supporters around the country who believe that the process that you're driving is going to disenfranchise them if you win.
Would they be disenfranchised if he had been born in Germany? He wouldn't be on the ballot. He committed insurrection, and he should not be on the ballot. It's very simple. There's 4 reasons you can't be on the ballot. And if they truly believe in our democracy, they will accept it. Just as I have accepted things that have been passed that I don't agree with.
And are you confident that you will win this?
I'm always confident.
Last one or two.
What about you? Can we talk about your confidence?
Yes, I'm confident the court's going to apply the law.
Sorry, just talk to us.
Absolutely, yes. We're confident that as the court continues to dig into the legal issues here, it will see that there is no way to excuse a president who engaged in insurrection from applying the Constitution.
There was one over here. Sir, go ahead. We're not. Last question.
What kind of precedent it would set if the court doesn't?
You had one, isn't
What
it?
kind of
She
precedent
has one
it would
back
set
there.
For the country?
Go ahead. NHK, go ahead. Just shout.
So, yeah, just a very quick question. What's your reaction to their indictment, and also how is the atmosphere? Can I ask you more in detail?
Certainly. Well, the atmosphere was.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I
couldn't
didn't
hear you very.
repeat the
I
question.
think we couldn't hear the question terribly well. Could you speak up, please?
Oh, yes.
You repeat it.
Your reaction, and how was the atmosphere?
What's your reaction, and how was the atmosphere in the court?
Well, the court, as usual, was very, very quiet. Few giggles once in a while, but very intense. And I noticed that each and every justice listened very closely. They all paid attention. Not one fell asleep. Isn't that good? I'm kidding. They wouldn't anyhow. But no, it was intense. Lots of questions. In fact, probably more questions than usual. Yeah, that's what I thought. And because they were curious, they want to know what is their duty.
Thanks, everybody.
If I may something, a lot of foreign media, like from Spain and all over the place, are obviously
I know.
following this case. What do you think for a second what people around the world may think if judges disqualify a presidential candidate in the U.S.?
If they qualify him, then we just have to work very hard to beat him. That's all we could do if that happened. And I know the rest of the world would be very disappointed because I've talked to a few of those reporters.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.